Well, it's a somber day here because, as many of you know, Amazon has now made some changes that's making it much more difficult to sell on the platform FBA. And in a vacuum, if you look at these changes, you might think that it's over. Your business is done and there's no way for you to continue. But I'm here to tell you that's not true. And you should take heart that there is a way forward for all sellers, including people who sell primarily FBA and for eBay sellers as well. Welcome to the Prof Sales YouTube channel. I'm your host, Prof Sales. And we talk about being an entrepreneur, side hustles, making money online, and just having a positive outlook on life and business. And I have to tell you that right now, at this moment in time, March 17, 2020, it's difficult to be positive. It's very difficult. There's a lot of things going on in the world right now that are very difficult for people to wrap their head around. It almost seems like we're living in some strange horror movie or end of the world sort of TV show or something. There's a terrible sickness going around the world that is infecting people and killing some people. And it's caused a tremendous amount of chaos in our infrastructure, in our economies, in our everyday lives, our social interactions, you name it. It's pretty much impossible to go anywhere, to go online, to go on a television set, to watch TV, to get on social media and not hear about this virus and deaths and symptoms and border closings and restrictions and bans and so on. And for those of us who sell online, this is having tremendously impactful consequences to our businesses. It seems likely that the world economy is going to struggle with this virus in this scenario for quite some time. There may be a temporary to even more permanent downturn that may last for quite a while. I don't know. I'm not an economist. I'm not sure anybody knows all the fallout that's going to happen, but there's been some fallout in the reselling community, in the e-commerce community, that affects a lot of people that watch this channel and affects a lot of people just that buy and sell online in general. Excuse me, I have a little congestion, not from anything you're thinking. All right, so let's get right into it. And I welcome everyone who's in the chat. If you're in the chat, I would love to hear your comments. I will definitely talk about it. If someone wants to jump online with me, I can actually send an invite, or you can send a message to me on Facebook if you want. I can send you an invite. You can jump on if you'd like. You can be a part of this conversation and give your thoughts, because I'd love to hear from other people if you're comfortable coming on video and so on. But, just let me know if that's something you want to do. And I would say, as always, click the like button and subscribe. It lets me know I'm doing a good job, lets YouTube know a good job as well, and it supports the channel. So I really appreciate it. So does Google. So click the like button. All right. So let's jump into this. So what's going on? So the first thing that's happened today has been that Amazon has suspended FBA shipments across multiple categories. They basically have said, we are not going to allow you to create any more shipments until, I think, the second week of April that are not related to certain categories of things that people really need right now. So I can tell you, as someone who works at Amazon and has a tiny little bit of inside knowledge, tiny little bit, that Amazon's been running out of things. Now, what do I mean by that? Amazon doesn't really stockpile the items that it sells on the platform. It doesn't keep the fulfillment center full of Amazon sold items. It tries to maintain a very small inventory window and basically move through items very quickly. That makes good business sense, right? Sort of the fast nickel approach. And because of that, Amazon is always very close to the edge of running out of things that it sells. With this current crisis that we're in, a lot of people have been really going after the third-party label and the Amazon sold items that relate to items we're going to need, in this crisis, whether it be healthcare items, whether it be household sundries and so on. So they've been running out. That's a true fact. Amazon has been running out of these items. So Amazon had to decide, what are we going to do about this? And I think this statement they made is a reaction to that. They decided, we need more of these items, but we also need to divert our resources to handling these items, because I can tell you right now, it's now March. The seasonal hires that Amazon hired for for Q4, have largely gone home. Those of us that are left, as like myself, were the ones who were able to carve out a place for ourselves, and they saw value in keeping us on. And now we have an opportunity to be even more permanent, if you will, what they call a blue badge, at least in my center, and other centers are doing similar things. And that allows us to stay on even more permanently, so to speak. So right now, our resources, our manpower at these centers is not that great. We are consistently running on longer shifts with less people and more work. So you can imagine how difficult that is on the system. So Amazon has taken the steps that, well, first of all, they had to say to our employees, hey, if you feel sick or you've been diagnosed with this virus, stay home. And we're not going to count it against you. And in fact, we're going to give you 2 weeks of pay, which is pretty sweet, if you are, if you're a confirmed case. They've also taken steps to try to make the fulfillment centers and sort centers more hygienic. But they basically don't want people to come to work if they're sick, which makes good sense, right? But the downside of that policy has been that some employees have taken advantage of that and decided not to work their shifts just because they didn't want to. Not because they were feeling ill, but just because they didn't want to. And we've seen a reduction in the number of people working on our shifts, which means the workload is harder, the workload is longer, it's tougher to get it done. I won't even be surprised if Amazon says, hey, we can't guarantee 1-day shipping right now. Would not surprise me at all, because that is a huge strain on the system. So because of all these factors, and because Amazon has been running out of inventory, I think that's why we saw this message. They saw the handwriting on the wall. Actually, this has been going on for weeks now. They've been running short of these supplies. They saw the price gouging that was going on some listings, some sellers, and they decided that, we got to take action. And their action was, people right now don't need more video games. People right now don't need more toys. People right now don't need more electronic items. What they need are the health items and the grocery items and the household items that are in short supply in stores. Amazon is actually acting very responsible in this situation, if you ask me. They are prioritizing what needs to go out to people. So, and they're doing that with this situation where they have limited hours to use. So productivity is tougher to get right now. So it's kind of a combination of all these factors hitting. So, and Scrapyard Flipper asks, are you still able to go to your Amazon warehouse job? Yeah, I actually am able to work extra hours. That I'll talk about that a little bit more, but I'm actually able to work up to 60 hours a week if I wanted, which is nuts. I don't know that I could work 60 hours a week. I think it would kill me there, but that's not because of how hard the work is, because I'm old. But anyway, all right. So what else is this going to mean for all of us? We've seen this tremendously disruptive message from Amazon, but probably needed. All right. So here's what I'm going to say to you guys first. First of all, you need to take a deep breath. or 2 or 10 or 100. The last few weeks as a citizen on planet Earth have been difficult. The last few months even. This virus has disrupted everything in our lives, and it's made a lot of us hypersensitive to every little bit of news that comes out, every little new story, every new account of a country being infected or an event being shut down or someone famous gets the disease. And I got to be honest with you, I went through a period like a week or so ago where I was feeling kind of depressed. I was getting like a depression from watching and filling my mind with all this stuff, because it is depressing and overwhelming to some degree. Like, it doesn't seem completely real, but you got to have perspective. And the perspective is that we've gone through trials before as a nation, as a people, as a planet, and we're going to get through this one too. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be a challenge. Some things are going to change, maybe forever, but we're going to get through it. So take a deep breath and realize that there is light at the end of the tunnel. What does this mean for us as sellers? Here's what's going to happen. Some of you who sell on Amazon are going to have to do more fulfilled by merchant, because you're not going to be able to send items in. Maybe you are going to be able to still source, but you're going to have to sell those things as a merchant. I'm already looking at shifting over books to fulfilled by merchant. I haven't really done any fulfilled by merchant sales to speak of, so it'll be something new to learn, which is always interesting. But people are still going to order things. People are still going to want things. And if you do fulfill by merchant, you're not getting those FBA fees. You just have your cost of goods, and you just need somewhere to store your merchandise. Now, I know that's not an option for everyone, because some of you are bigger sellers and you have a lot of things you've been buying. Some of you will just have to wait it out. You're just going to have to wait this out and see what happens with price and inventory and so on. You're going to eat some storage fees. Your turn rates are going to slow down. You're not going to turn items in 30 days. Maybe they'll be 45 or 60 or 90 or 120. And you're just going to have to wait this out and see what happens, because there's no really easy way to get through these next few months other than just to wait it out. So some of you will remove your items from Amazon. Amazon has a disposal feature or removal feature. For a fee, you can get each item shipped back to you, or you can have them dispose of it. I can't tell you what to do with your items, but I would say if there's still significant value and you can bring those items back home and sell on as a merchant, if it's not feasible to keep paying fees, like especially with certain large items, or if you can sell those items on eBay or a local marketplace, you should do that. You should do that. Like, you should just bite the bullet and realize, I'm going to take a hit, but I need to sell these items. I need to keep money coming in. I need to keep my business going. eBay is a great resource for Amazon sellers who bring things back home and don't get them disposed of, because now you can take those items and sell them on eBay, right? You may not get the same price. You probably won't get the same price. And there's going to be some ramifications to this. One of the negative things about this situation, or one of the things I think is going to be really challenging, is if you decide to start selling more of your items on eBay, eBay is likely to see an influx of inventory with certain SKUs and categories. That is likely to push down price because you have more supply. Demand actually may be even less, which will further push down price. So you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that you're going to bring back items, or items you source now, maybe you're going to sell on eBay or some other e-commerce site, and price is going to be depressed and you're going to make less on it, and you're not going to sell as many of them. I would 100%, if I were advising any of you, and I'm advising myself this too, I would prepare for that scenario. I think that is highly, highly likely that's going to happen, because if we are truly heading into a recession, demand is likely to shrink, which means there won't be as many sales, which means everybody will be scrambling for the sales that are there, which means price will be a huge factor in trying to get those sales, which means price will probably go down, which means you will get less for your items and sell less of them. No way to sugarcoat that one. That one sucks, and we're all just going to have to deal with it. But it's just the reality of being in business. And, you know, I don't know what to tell you other than you just have to wrap your head around that and be ready for that. All right. So what else? I just want to tell you guys that this reminds us that business in general is about adapting to new circumstances, and you need to diversify your business. I have not been selling a lot of FBA items lately, but I have been selling some, and they've all been FBA. Over the last year, they've all been FBA. And now I'm in a situation where I cannot even send those items in if I wanted to. That just reminds me of some good advice I did not take last year and have not been really paying attention this year. You need to diversify. I need to diversify. If you've got all your eggs in the Amazon FBA basket, well, guess what? There's a hole in the basket and your eggs are falling out and cracking on the sidewalk. So you need to find a new basket, a new bunch of baskets. And that's always good business advice. I mean, how many of us in the good times that have been out there in terms of eBay and Amazon, we've forgotten that this is, when you put all your eggs in that basket, you run the risk of things going south in a hurry. And that's what's happening. It's not going to be the end of the world. It doesn't mean you're necessarily going to close up shop and never sell again on these platforms. But man, this is a tough one. And I think a lot of people are about to take a huge hit as sellers. I even told Karin this morning that this is going to be probably the end of some of our friends' Amazon businesses. And the reason I say that is because a lot of Amazon businesses are run on basically about a 30-day basis. In other words, these businesses they got product going in, they got sales being made, they got new items being purchased with the cost of goods they got from the items they sold, and they're cycling and repeating, and they're creating an income from this. Well, now all of a sudden, when you cut the amount of items that can go in for the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I think it's going to be longer than April, guys. I'm just guessing. I don't have any knowledge of that, but I won't be surprised at all if Amazon increases this time to restrict new FBA items in those certain categories. I think they're going to push it beyond the April deadline, but we'll see. But now all of a sudden, like, you can't send those items in. Now you're not getting the same sell through. Yes, some of your old items are still selling, but you're pulling less and less revenue out, which means less cost of goods coming back out, which means less money to buy new items, yada, yada, yada. Like, it spirals in on itself. And a lot of sellers are running on a fairly quick turnaround time. They're expecting their items to sell in 30 days, and they can just keep pumping in new items. So they are at great risk. If they don't have cash reserves put aside, and most FBA sellers, even the bigger ones, don't have a lot of cash put aside, or if they're buying a lot of those items on credit, they are potentially in a very precarious situation right now. Even a small dip in sales combined with the inability to send in new inventory is going to drastically change their business model. If they don't adapt and send in items in the new category, which creates its own problems because then you oversupply those categories, then if you can get the items, that is, I don't know, that's a whole nother argument, then they don't really have anything they can send in. And now their sales start to dwindle, their cash flow dwindles, and they run the risk of being out of business. And that's probably going to happen to some people. And that's the destructive nature of this game we call reselling, and the destructive nature of capitalism. It is destructive. And especially when times go bad or recessions happen and economic situations get dire or tougher, people go out of business. They fail. I don't even know how to say fail. Fail is a tough word. They just aren't able to adapt to the changing situation. Some will, but a lot won't. And that's okay, because you're not promised any of this. We're not promised to have this reselling life, this e-commerce life. But it's a shame when you've built something and then you see it go down the drain because of circumstances beyond your control, as well as maybe a lack of planning on your part too. It's kind of a combination of those things. And if you got questions and comments, please leave them. Scrapyard Flipper says, was thinking about you yesterday. You're still able to, let's see if I can show this. Are you still able to go to your Amazon warehouse job? Yes. As I mentioned, we actually have more hours than normal. They're asking for additional shifts, and Amazon is hiring more people, which I will talk about here in a moment. So yes, I am able to go to it. We are very busy. Let's see. Sean asked, why would you need to recall your inventory? That makes no sense. Well, you don't have to recall your inventory, Sean. I think the challenge here for a lot of Amazon sellers is, one, you need cash flow. If you're in a 30-day kind of cycle here, which a lot of sellers are, not all, but many are, then you need cash flow. And if your items are not selling due to declining sales on the platform, which a lot of sellers I know have seen that in a lot of categories, not all categories. Some categories had amazing sales. Others have declining sales. Then you've got a problem. So what do? So you got this inventory setting there. You can't send any more in. So your best items, whatever your best items are right now, sell through, even despite the declining sales, maybe not at the levels they were. So your top 30% of your items, or whatever the number is, sell through. You get some profit from them, but you got that other 70% sitting there. So what do you do with it? You can wait it out. You're paying some storage fees, which sucks. You got money tied up. You got capital tied up in the cost of goods of those items that you can't put back out into other items, or even just use to fund operations if you need to. So you get put in this tough dilemma. Are you going to pull those out, or are you going to wait it out? I don't know what the right answer is, but I know that every business needs cash flow. And if your sales are declining and the inventory that you have still at Amazon is not that great compared to what was selling, you have a real problem. And we all send in some items that sometimes become more long tail than we anticipated, but you don't have to remove them. But at the same time, you need the money from the sales from those items. So it becomes sort of a catch-22. If you leave them there, you can get the sale, but you can't, but you're tied up your capital, and it may be for a long time, and you're eating some storage fees. If you don't leave them there, you're paying the removal cost, but now you can't get the Amazon sale, and you still need to sell them somewhere. That's a tricky equation to figure out. And I don't know what's going to be right for most people there. I don't know if there's one size fits all answer there. You're going to see a lot of FBA sellers ship sinking, which is sad. Yeah, I think you will. I think we'll talk about that in a minute, like why I'm not as pessimistic as some might be. But yeah, I think you're right. You will see a culling somewhat. Marrakesh says, good morning from Seattle. Yeah. D says, hopefully people won't take out loans thinking they will recover fast. This may and probably will last till summer. No promise on anything. Bills keep coming. Yeah, and that's the problem I just mentioned. It's cash flow. Like, how do you get, if your sales are already decreasing, which some of them were on Amazon from what I've heard from some people, and then now you can't send anything new to replace the really good stuff that's already sold, you've got an issue. You got a real issue there. You've got a warehouse full of stuff that's not moving, and it's costing you money. It's costing you opportunity costs in terms of the capital that you've tied up in it, and it's costing you actual costs in terms of the storage fees, which the storage fees may not be that much in the big scheme of things, especially for some sellers, depending on the size of their items, but it can add up. Let's see. Let's see what Lotus has to say. Thank you for speaking on this. I am Posh, an eBay seller, very tiny store on eBay. My main is Poshmark, 1,100 items, but want to put it all back on eBay. Yeah, thanks for that, Lotus. Yeah, I suspect this is going to impact Poshmark just the same as it is all the rest. I don't see any reason why this recession is going to spare too many e-commerce platforms. When tough times hit, and I think a recession, somebody can correct me in the chat, I think a recession is defined as like 2 declining quarters of economic growth in a row. So we're not there yet, but we might be there by like the fall, or even sometime in Q4. I think that when recessions hit, or when people think a recession is hitting, they get scared. They don't spend money. They and in this particular situation, guys, this is so different. Like, Karen and I were talking about this today. When 9/11 happened in the United States, it was a tremendously impactful event. You couldn't escape the ramifications of that event. I mean, it changed a lot of things. That was almost 20 years ago, about 19 years ago. So it changed a lot of things, and the economy took a little hit for sure, but people didn't have to quit spending money. People weren't being asked to stay away from public events. Like, I just saw a story yesterday that some of the casinos in Las Vegas are closing. Casinos. I mean, casinos are, if casinos don't represent capitalism, I don't know what does. I mean, that's about as iconic of a representation of capitalism as you can get, a casino. And when they're closing, you know now that, man, this is bad. Like, this is bad in the sense that it's economically bad. The health issues are bad too. The economic issues, I think, are going to far dwarf them in the long run, because now you're asking people to quit spending money, to quit going anywhere, to quit doing things, to quit going to work, quit shopping here, quit going to this event. This is going to be a tremendous drag on the world's economies for probably quite a while. So every platform is going to be affected for sure, because people are not going to want to spend money on anything that's not essential, because all kinds of things are going to be uncertain. Your job security eventually may be uncertain. I mean, this is what happens in recessions. Businesses scale down and then they build back up again, and then they scale down and they build back. And this is a cycle. It just goes on and on. This one's going to be no different. Now, how long it's going to last, we don't know. I suspect at some point in the United States, at least, some point in the summer would be my guess, maybe even early fall, we're going to have some pretty good news about this. And what do I mean by good news? I think the good news will be something along the lines of the spread is going to be contained. There's more people recovering than there are catching the virus. And we're on our way, if not there, to a vaccine, because vaccines can be created much faster than they were in the past. Now, no guarantees. Vaccines are tricky things to create. But the combination of all those events and the world taking the unprecedented actions that it's taking are going to have an effect, and people are going to feel more confident. But that doesn't mean that there isn't going to be economic damage that's going to have already been done that needs to have some time to filter through the system. There will be. So let's look at a couple more things points I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about. Amazon is taking steps to correct the situation. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean by that they're doing a lot of things. I got to give them credit. Yes, I work for them, so I guess I'm not objective. But I think I can give them fairly objective feedback. They're taking steps to correct the situation. They're taking a step to get more product in the pipeline. Oops, I'm sorry about that. I hit the table. Of what people need. They're taking the step to hire people they're hiring 100,000 new workers. I don't know if that's the same size as Q4 hiring was. Probably not. Maybe like half of that. But that's a big chunk of people. They're paying all of us $2 an hour more, temporarily at least, to do this. They're allowing us to work up to 59 and a half hours in my particular area. They are going after people who are gouging prices and so on to try to make products a little bit more affordable. They're taking steps. I mean, I got to give them credit. Like, they're taking unprecedented steps. They see this as an opportunity to provide what people need, because now all of a sudden you got the situation where people need to stay home more and not engage with people and not shop in stores. Well, Amazon says, great, we're an online retailer. We're going to help you out. We're going to try to take up the slack. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you can hate on Amazon, you can love on Amazon, but you got to admit, man, they're taking some unprecedented steps. They're spending some money to do this. I mean, the amount of money they're spending, I think they told us they'd already put aside like $50 million for wages for people who were tested positive, their workers. So they're able to pay them for those 2 weeks that they have to quarantine. And that money might go up. I mean, they're taking steps, and I got to give them credit. They're going to come out of this smelling like a rose. I got a feeling. Bezos and crew are pretty smart, and I think they realize this is an unprecedented opportunity where they can literally help, shoppers and people buying all around the world to get what they need in this moment, and to do it in a responsible way. And they're moving heaven and earth to make it happen, guys. I got to tell you, like, they're doing it, and I see it like in my particular job and so on. I mean, it's, they're doing everything they can to get stuff to people. It's not perfect, but it's who else is going to do it? Like, governments are pretty inefficient at doing it usually. Business is much more efficient at doing it. So they're really stepping up to the plate. What about merchant fulfillment? Yeah, I mean, fulfilled by merchant is probably going to rise dramatically, Paul Austin. I think that, oops, I'm sorry. I mean to hit that one too. Let's see here. You're welcome, Barb. Sorry, I hit that thing too. I kind of clicked on the next one. Yeah, I think merchant fulfillment is going to be where a lot of people are going to shift their attention that are sellers. So everybody's going to designate some space in their home. It's like we're all becoming eBay sellers again, which is fine. Susanna's got a more pessimistic view. She says this will be more like the Great Depression, if not worse, and won't end anytime soon. Yeah, I don't know about that. It's hard to say. This is a much different world than it was in the 1930s. The financial system is set up differently. There's social safety nets now that didn't exist back in the 1930s. Actually, some of those were created as a result of what happened in the 1930s. There's no agricultural drought that I'm aware of. It's not like the food supply is in danger, which it was somewhat in the late 1920s and early 1930s, in the Dust Bowl days in the center of the country, in the United States at least. I think it's a different set of circumstances, Susanna, and unemployment actually, before we started all this, has been really low. Some of the lowest it's been in our history. In the 1930s, unemployment in the United States got very, very bad. It got up in the 30 percentiles, which is crazy. It's never been that high since then, to give some context. So I don't know. And plus, we also have the ability to manipulate our medicine, our response to these viruses and so on. Communication is so much different with people today. I just think there's a lot of differences that weren't there in the 1930s that, not to say we couldn't go into some sort of depression. It's possible, but it's not going to be because of the same reasons that happened there. Also, the money supply is much different. There's so many things that are different. I'm not an economist. I can't speak to all of them. In fact, I did terrible in economics, but since then I've learned a few things. Let's see. What else we got in the comments? Thank you guys so much for all the comments. Susanna says a vaccine has been created and put in the first human. I haven't heard that. I know there's been some some retroviral drugs and so on that they can use, that they have good hope to retard the progress of this disease. But, Britt Roberts says, Britt Roberts is trying to ask if I've got a vested interest. Do I own Amazon stock? No, I do not. Which that's another whole story. So I just want to say that, too, you need to consider, and I already mentioned this, eBay is going to see an influx of inventory. So for all you eBay sellers, you need to be ready. There might have been you and 20 people selling something, and now it'll be you and 50 people. And that's going to have an effect on price. And the effect on price is probably going to be to depress prices. More supply without additional demand usually leads to a decrease in price. It's just the way it works. So I would be prepared for that. If you're on eBay, I would look to find ways to differentiate your listings. I mean, these are always good tips, right? Ways to sell within the niches that, the Amazon sellers are missing. I mean, Amazon sellers are going to come in with quantity if they come to eBay with items that they've been sourcing or have sourced, and this might be temporary because they might all move to merchant fulfilled. Some of them will move to merchant fulfilled. Some of the Amazon sellers will give up and quit. Some will shift to eBay. Some will source totally different items and still do FBA. They'll go to the categories they can be. I mean, there'll be, all those scenarios are going to happen in varying degrees. But some of the sellers on Amazon will sell their items on eBay, no doubt about it, because it's the second biggest e-commerce player. And that's going to probably push down price if there's more supply without increased demand. It's the way it works. So don't be, don't be alarmed if that happens, but just realize that, you're probably you might have to accept lower profit on some of your items to get them sold. It's the way it works. Yeah, Lisa says the world did not have the internet and so many opportunities during the Great Depression. Yeah, I agree. Like, I think trying to draw parallels between now and the time of the Great Depression, it's not the same. It's not the same at all in so many different ways that I don't think you can make an accurate comparison. Of course, you can always point to this or that item and say it's the same, but it just isn't the same in so many different ways that I don't know that we can really draw that much history from that. Obviously the stock market has gone down, which is not that crazy considering all the news that's come out. But you know what? I'm going to say something that's going to be controversial here, and it's been said before. So it's not my idea. The Great Depression in the United States created an awful lot of millionaires afterwards, because lots of people found tremendous bargains in commodities and real estate and so on, and investments that they bought in when the market was low, and they made, tremendous profits. And that allowed for some of the production in the 1940s for the war, as well as the tremendous boom times the United States had in the 1950s, which the United States also had those boom times because they won the war and Europe was decimated and Japan was decimated. And we were by far, the largest manufacturer and economy and yada, 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 all that good stuff. But there's other factors, like obviously a huge war like World War II had tremendous impacts on a lot of economies in lots of different ways. But the Depression created opportunity is my point. And this recession or whatever, if we go into one, it's going to create opportunity as well for us as resellers and everybody. Let's see what else is out here. I have, Eileen says, I haven't made an eBay sale since the UK government started taking the virus seriously and told people to stay home. It's a ghost town already. Yeah, I mean, I think people are going to probably hold on to some cash. I think, look, let's be serious here for a moment. Tremendous chance you're going to see a drop in your sales. I'm just going to say it like that. You're going to see a drop in your sales for all the reasons we've already talked about. So you need to prepare for that. How are you going to prepare for that? Well, lots of different ways. Source different items, scale back your operation, look for other sources of income. I mean, there's all sorts of ways. But you're going to see a drop in your income if you're selling online right now. I just don't see any way around that. There'll be some people who would do better, but that's because they just happen to be prepared for this situation beforehand, either through product or cash flow or, the way their business is set up. Deconley says, I sell hard goods. Clothes are getting really saturated. I only see higher dollar clothing harder to find. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like, at some point we'll have to look to what will be the outcome of all this. What will be different after we get on the backside of this crisis? And we will. Sometime in the, a year from now, things are going to be much different. They're going to feel different. They're going to look different. They're going to be different. But right now, it's kind of hard to see that year out because it's, we're all so caught up in this moment of, concern, of panic in some cases, of, people going nuts. And I think that there will be opportunity in terms of categories and items to sell things that maybe we don't see right now. What the long-term implications of this are is kind of hard to figure out yet. But if anybody's got any ideas on that, I'd love to hear them. Greener Pasture says, agree, you might have to sell for recovery of input costs plus very small profit. Yeah, I don't disagree with that, Greener Pastures. I think you're all over it. I think that is what a lot of us are going to have to deal with. You're going to have to, maybe you were making 40% margin and now you're going to make 30 or 20 or whatever it is. And you're not going to sell as many of them, whatever your widget is that you're selling. This is just reality. Scott says, my eBay sales are up 48% over last month without running any sales or auctions, but this may change. Yeah, I think January and February, though, are like February is typically a slow month on eBay. I could be wrong about that. Well, it depends on what you're selling, right? Just like anything else, depends on what you're selling. And the reason I say that is because when you come out of Q4, the credit card bills come due, they start hitting in January, and then people start thinking about it, and they're like, so I don't know. I would say, Scott, you want to look back at kind of like what you had last year at this time, like what your sales were for March or February, and see if you see a difference there. And also look at how many items you have up and ASP of your items. I mean, you got to look at all those things too. It's not just one number you can look at and make a case for. So what else do I have here? All right. So we already talked about that. So one other thing I would recommend you guys do, and one other way to get through this, and this is probably the one that I've been the most lax on over the past year. And that is creating multiple streams of income. And no, I'm not trying to sound like an infomercial or some cheesy ad on Instagram. What I'm saying is you've heard me say on this channel before, if you watch me before for any period of time, that when you work a job and that's your only source of income, you have the greatest risk. You have tremendous income risk because at any time you could lose that job or no longer be able to do that job. It could be taken from you, it could be reduced, and you have no other backup plan. You have no other source of income. When you create multiple sources of income, if one of them goes down, others are still there. And they can help you. They can help you survive. They can help you even continue to thrive. So you really need to look at creating multiple streams of income. So what does that look like for us as resellers? And I'd love to hear your comments in the chat on that, what you consider multiple streams of income to be that might work. Obviously, if you're selling, see, this is where I think we screw up in the reselling community. We'll say, all right, I'm going to sell on eBay, but I'm also going to sell on Amazon in case things go bad on one of them. But you're still kind of in the same category. You're still on an e-commerce site. And if you're selling the same items on both or same categories of items, you're not really diversifying your risk. You still have risk. Like if you say, well, I'm going to sell used car parts on Amazon, or I don't even know if you can sell used car parts. Maybe you can only sell new. I'm not even sure. Let's say it's new car parts, and you're going to sell new car parts on eBay in case you lose your account on Amazon. Okay, that's a little diversification. But if something happens in the car part industry or happens that affects how much demand there is for car parts, you're screwed either way. That's not really true diversification of income. That's not multiple streams. So you'd be better off finding something else that's not just an e-commerce platform. If you're only selling on eBay and Amazon and Poshmark and Etsy and Mercari and all these other ones, you should look to sell or to get income coming in from other streams. And streams start as a trickle, and eventually they can become a stream, and then eventually a creek, and then eventually a river, and eventually an ocean, or maybe I skipped a lake in there somewhere. But you can have multiple streams of income coming in from all kinds of different sources. And there's lots of ways to do that here in the internet age. Somebody mentioned about YouTubers right at the very beginning that, oh, well, all the resellers might be screwed, but all the ones that have YouTube channels will be fine. That's not really true. There are a few people in the reselling niche that make what you could consider to be a full-time income from their YouTube channels. I'm not one of them. Most of the people I know that have channels are not one of them. I would say the number of resellers that make a full-time income, and what do I mean by full-time income? Enough to support, say, one person, sort of in a median priced area. I'd say the number of YouTubers who can do that, it's less than 5%. It's probably down to like 1 or 2. If I had to guess, it's not a big number. And by support themselves and saying they got enough income coming in from AdSense, which is, AdSense is tough unless you're getting a lot of watch time. So I don't think YouTubers are any more immune to this than anybody else. I mean, my YouTube channel used to do really well like 2 years ago when I was putting out a lot of content. I was in one narrow niche and I was able to really hone in on that. Now, not so much. So I think that you have to look at YouTube as just one more stream of income if you can do it. I know some of you out there are, maybe you're just going to consider starting channels and you're not there yet. And you want to be able to, monetize and get some watch time and all the things that YouTube requires. And it takes a little while to do. But ultimately, you just have to be able to realize that YouTube is just one source. It's not the only source. I think that you should look into like affiliate products. If you're using something and you think the people that would benefit from it, share it with them. Be upfront about it. Say, look, it's an affiliate product. I get a commission. You're supposed to do that. It's the law. But hey, I use it. This is valuable. You should use it too. You're actually doing a disservice if you don't use it. I think you should look into, if you need a part-time gig, a part-time work to get in a revenue stream like I have, working at Amazon, you should do it. Do it. I mean, this is how you diversify your income. If you, you want to do like coaching because you've got some valuable expertise, you want to do contract work for people because you've got a skill that you can, that you can put out there and use as a contractor, do it. Like, these are all how you create multiple streams of income, and how when one fails, you're not going to be screwed. So diversify your income, guys. I mean, diversify it. And that doesn't mean every stream is going to be the same as every other stream, but it means taking it all together, they provide a decent income. And, of course, not everybody is going to know what they want to do with all that, but I would just say, just get started. And if you need help with that, send me a message. My email, I think, will be here in the description. You can find me on Facebook on the Prof Sales page, or Instagram, Prof Sales as well. So, send me a message about all that. I'll be glad to answer any questions you got. I'm not an expert, but I do know a few things. But this is telling us that, again, you have to find ways to support yourself and your family and to even thrive that aren't so dependent on one source of income, one platform, one thing. I know the entrepreneurial spirit is, they tell you should go all in on something. And there's value in that, but there's also great risk. And the great risk is that you go all in and it doesn't work, or it's taken from you. And not only have you lost the time, you've lost the opportunity cost to do something else. You've lost the actual cost of going into it. And then at the end of the day, you're sitting there with a big fat zero. That's frustrating. That can be soul crushing. That can be depressing. It can be all those things. And then that takes you a while to even recover from sometimes. So my advice to you is, diversify out your income and your income streams right now. I've been putting a lot of thought into this as of late. And this, waking up today to this Amazon message that told me that, this platform that I've been selling items on now no longer wants some of my items. What clearer message could be sent than that I need to diversify my income better, my revenue streams better? I do. And I've been thinking about a lot of things to do that as of late, and I'm going to be doing some of those things. because I think this is the thing, guys. I love this quote from Scott Adams. He's the guy who wrote Dilbert, the comic strip. And he basically said, most people are never going to be in the top 1% or an expert at anything, like the best in the world at something. That's almost impossible. But he said, but you probably have something you could be in the top, say 25%. And that's pretty good. He said, because like in his case, he was not the greatest artist and he was not the greatest at telling jokes, writing jokes, but he was decent. He's a good artist and he was fairly good at telling jokes. And he combined that to put it together one of the most iconic, long-lasting comic strips of all time. Look for what you're in that top 25% in and go after that. Most of you guys listening right now, there is something you are good at and passionate about, and you could provide value to other people. It starts with that. It starts with value. Like, what value can you provide to somebody else? And then go from that, and you'll figure it out. I like to analyze things. I like to teach things. I like to really deconstruct businesses and models and results and so on and break them down. I think I'm pretty good at it. I'm not the top 1%. I'm not an expert. I'm not as good as, some of the people you're going to see on television or on some of social media, but I don't have to be. I just have to be pretty good at it. And that doesn't mean I have the best results or I'm the greatest seller in the world. I got in a conversation with somebody about that once, and they, their argument was, I only want to learn from people who are the best at something. And I just thought to myself, sometimes the people who are the best at something have no idea how to teach it. They have no idea how to communicate what it is they do. In fact, they're pretty crappy at it. We've seen this in sports a lot, where some of the best players and in the history of any game you want to name make some of the worst coaches, worst general managers. Like, it's a different skill set. It's totally different. So what you want is somebody who's really good at diagnosing what value they can bring to you and communicating it to you and you internalizing it and doing it. Sorry to get off on like a promotional pitch there, but I truly feel that you need to figure out what else you're good at, what other value you can bring to this community. If reselling is your game and you're selling on these platforms, what can you tell us? What can you tell us? And along those lines, I'm actually starting to reach out to a bunch of people. I've already reached out to probably about 10 already. And if anybody's listening in this chat or watching this video afterwards, open invitation. I am basically restarting my interview part of this channel. I really want to talk to people who are getting it done, who have figured out some things, who are passionate about this game of selling online and making money online and e-commerce. And I want to talk to them and share their story. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to be doing some 30-minute interviews. They'll be recorded like by a Zoom call and so on, and I'll be sharing them on the channel with people. And of course, if you've got here's your opportunity. If you want to diversify your revenue streams and you're selling on eBay and you're selling Amazon and you think people could benefit from that, but they could also benefit from the tools that you're using, AKA affiliate links. They could benefit from, maybe you do some coaching on the side, AKA your coaching business. I'll promote that as well, but I want you to come on and tell your story. And so if you want, reach out to me after this video. I'm going to be sending out more and more invitations, like I said, and doing some of those and trying to get people that I think if you heard their story, they can give you advice and so on that you can use and put into your own business and your own mindset and really use. So yeah, I am going to be doing some other interviews. Scott says he loved when I did the interviews. Scott, you should come on. You should be one of those interviews. So, and they're going to be a little bit shorter too, because they're only going to be like 30 minutes. We're not going to go crazy on the time. So it'll be a little more digestible for everybody to be able to really just go in there and kind of like tell what you're about and then give us some what, how, and why and how to contact you. And that's it. So definitely want to reach out to you guys for that. If you're interested about that, let me know. And thank you guys for in this chat too. I mean, I'm going to just say You're not, don't let this define you, all these events. Like, your reaction to all this is going to say a lot about how successful you're going to be over the next 6 months. And I know some of you that are listening to me or watching me right now, some of you are probably going to quit. Some of you are going to get pissed off. Some of you are going to post on Facebook about how unfair everything is, or Instagram. And I feel all that. I do. And I'm worried, and I've had my share of depression over this. And I say depression in quotes just because I don't know that it was really depression. Just I was, but we're going to come out of this on the backside. We're going to be stronger for it. There is a future for us here in e-commerce. It's not going to go away. This is not the end of retail. This is not the end of buying and selling online. This is not the end of our economies. It's not the end of our society. It's not. This is a blip in the big scheme of things. And I'm hopeful that in years from now, we're going to look back at all this and just say, well, that was some tough times, but we got through them. We got through them, and we're going to get through them together. That's the only way we're going to get through it. So I know you guys are being told to isolate and to quarantine, to self-isolate, I guess is the terminology, right? But that doesn't mean you need to isolate online. We're all connected now. We can all talk to each other. We can all interact. We can all share our experiences and stories without being in the same room. So do that. Oops, sorry about that. I had a phone call. So do that. Come out and, share your stories, interact with each other, talk to each other, support each other, find people around you that are positive and have an optimistic outlook on this. Avoid the negative Nancy, so to speak, all the naysayers, because that's just going to make you depressed. And I'm going to say, and this is like probably the final tip, and this is the hardest one for me as of late, and I've been struggling to do it. Turn off the news. Even if you just do it for like a day, just say, I am not going near a screen for a day. And I think you're going to be amazed. It will give you a little more perspective. Maybe you need 2 or 3 days, but you need to, there's so much information coming in about all this stuff right now. And it's really frustrating and conflicting sometimes. And it's depressing and it's alarming. It's all these adjectives, but ultimately you already know what needs to be done. You just need to take care of yourselves and your family. You need to try to be healthy, not put yourself in situations where you're not going to be healthy or around people who might not be healthy as little as possible, and be smart. That's it. That's all you really need to do. The media is just going to, the hype over this, and I don't mean hype in the sense it's not serious. I just mean the hype that's been created in the media has been unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it in my life. I've never seen a story that's encompassed so many avenues and so many aspects of our life like this virus. It's unbelievable. It is truly unbelievable. But most of the coverage of it, unfortunately, is incredibly negative. It's incredibly depressing. It will tear you down. It will not lift you up, and it will make you more pessimistic about what's going to happen. Because the reality is, guys, while this is a serious thing, the vast majority of people who've come in contact with this virus and contracted it, the vast majority have recovered and are recovering, because it's not a killer for most people. And that's just factual. That's not to diminish the danger, not at all. But it's just letting you know that most people are able to overcome this, and we can overcome it too. Those of us who haven't caught it, we need to overcome the negativity around it and the incredible, I hate to use the word hysteria, but man, it's close. Just the actions that we're taking as a society. I don't know. I don't know what's more dangerous, the virus or the actions. It's tough to say sometimes because they both have their consequences. D. Conley says the news will kill your soul. I don't disagree with that. You're right. It will kill your soul if you let it. And so, take heart. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through this from a e-commerce standpoint and a business standpoint. And, the future is still bright, is what I would leave you with. Take care, guys. Leave me a question or comment. Hit that like button on your way out and consider subscribing to this channel if you enjoyed this. And I will see you all real soon.